This is Isaiah Davis Allen, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber.
Sidearm whip, scores!
Now it's one. Padel scores! Hands off for Ravel, switches hands and scores!
Carly Omo are showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Pro Lacrosse Talk Podcast, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam, and together we're bringing you interviews from all your favorite players and coaches, as well as news and analysis from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. We're here with Isaiah Davis Allen, 2017 NCAA champion with the University of Maryland, 2019 MLL champion with Chesapeake Bayhawks, defender with the Philadelphia Wings, and 2020 Dave Huntley Man of the Year. Isaiah, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good, man. So how are you guys?
Good. We're doing great. We appreciate you jumping on today. We hope your Labor Day weekend's going well. Just to get started, we kind of want to talk about, how you started first playing lacrosse. I know you come from a family of athletes. Your uncle, Maurice Davis, played lacrosse at Rutgers. Your sister, Josephine, was playing soccer. I don't know if she is still, but she was at DeSales University. That's actually my alma mater, so I think that's a little cool connection there. And you're a multi-sport athlete yourself, so talk to me a little bit about when you started playing lacrosse and then how you eventually found yourself at St. Stephen St. Agnes playing lacrosse and hockey there.
Yeah, so being a DC guy back in like the mid 2000s, like lacrosse wasn't a big thing down there, so everyone kind of played. It was football, basketball, baseball type area. So growing up, I always played football, hockey, and baseball. Mm-hmm. So did that kind of all growing up, and then I turned about 13, and it was always a tough transition going from hockey, super fast paced, and baseball to really slow it down. So. Mm-hmm. Me being like a young kid, I was like, man, I can't play this baseball thing anymore. Let's play something a little bit faster. So I started playing a lacrosse back then. At that time, I didn't even know that my uncle played.
Okay, wow.
And started playing, and like he watched the game, and I forget what exactly he said, but like it was very in depth. And I remember being like, whoa, like how do you know this? And he was like, yeah, man. Like so, I played at Rutgers, and I also played at a Pingree, which is a private school up there in New Jersey. And so from that point, he kind of trained me all the way up through high school, and then obviously that stopped once I got to Maryland. But that was kind of my whole tie to the sport.
No, that's awesome. And I know you were coached by Coach Trigg too with Black Wolf, and that's how you kind of ended up at St. Stephen St. Agnes. I actually played with Joe Kenna before he transferred there. He was like 2 grades below me. I played with all his family, so I know you played with him, I think, for a few years at St. Stephen St. Agnes, right?
Yeah, man, the Kenna clan, like pulling up in the truck and having like 35 bodies jumping out of the truck.
Oh, yeah, hilarious. Yeah, yeah. I was actually just at Nick's wedding recently, and again, it was like, everyone just hanging out. It's the great family. But, talk to me a little bit too, being at St. Stephen St. Agnes, how was that kind of helping your progression towards, eventually playing in college?
I think for me, where I grew up, public school lacrosse isn't the best. So, being able to play, the best of the best in the DC, Maryland area, St. Stephen's was the obvious option there. Mm-hmm. I was actually supposed to go to a Paul VI.
Okay, yeah. Another good school for lacrosse.
So but they were just, at that point, they were just on the up and up. So it wasn't like great yet. Mm-hmm. But I had my uniform and everything and kind of made a last minute switch there. So ended up going there. I mean, for me, academically, it was really tough. So had to get caught up with, academics, especially English and sciences and things like that. So had to sit out my first year in football because it wasn't going so well the first semester. Then as far as on the field, obviously, playing in the IAC, one of the best conferences nationally, that really helped me out. And then going from there to college, I mean, I was playing against the exact same kids, right? Mm-hmm. Playing, I grew up in high school playing at IAC and, like MIAA kids. So it's the exact same kids in college. So
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of that transition to college, playing for Coach Tillman. What really drew you to Maryland? I mean, obviously there's the obvious reasons, right, to go and play in Maryland, but what really kind of piqued your interest about playing for Coach Tillman?
Man, I think to be 100% honest, man, I went to St. Stephen's. It was a really private preppy school, and I freaking hated it. like now, I mean, like I see the whole benefit and, going to school and obviously made some good friends and things like that. But I mean, that just like wasn't me as a person.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know how much you guys know, but I'm like a Harley guy. Like I got tattoos. Like I'm not a St. Stephen's guy by heart. Like, so going, choosing like my process, I was talking with my mom at the time. I was like, like you chose high school, like I'm choosing college. Like, so I went through the whole process. Hopkins was early and Maryland was early, probably because I was like a local kid. And I remember going to a visit, and at that time, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a kid named David Solomon. He was a St. Stephen's guy. He was blowing it up back then. And he was from kind of my same area in Fairfax County. And I mean, like I've known him since I was like little. And so Coach Tillman kind of, I think, used that whole tie, knowing that his family and my family were close, went up there, saw D-Saw was like what we used to call him. And then visited, met everyone, saw how diverse the campus was. And I remember watching practice. And I mean, so this is probably my second or third school going to. And I remember watching those kids play so hard, and like people were almost fighting on the field. And I was like, this is where this is my school. This is where like, I need to be at. And, I ended up going there and I never looked back. So.
That's awesome. And you obviously had a great career there. You guys made it to Final Four every year you were there, back-to-back championships. Unfortunately, there were losses, in your 2015-2016 season. Got over the hump. 2017, you won that championship. Talk to me about the progression, going through it with these guys, those 4 years, and finally, reaching the pinnacle of college lacrosse.
Oh, man. I mean, it was tough. Like, so, I mean, my freshman year, like my class, we all played pretty young. So, you got me, you got Colin, you got Matt Rambo, like rotate. All of us were kind of playing from our freshman year all the way through. So freshman year, like we got there and everyone thought that we weren't supposed to be there. Just with us being so young. Obviously like a little bit of a shell shock, or playing your first Hopkins game and then like playing Cornell, like schools like that you kind of just grew up watching. And then after that year, our sophomore year, having a year, under our belt, battled through our sophomore year. Like we had a few tough losses that year, really had to grind through that year. And I think when we played Denver, I mean, that was such a polished team. And we really had to grind through just the entire tournament. So I think by the last game, we were just dead. Third year when we lost to North Carolina in overtime, man, like that one was a heartbreaker. Like I thought that we had it up by 2 or 3 late. Like we were playing really good ball. I hadn't lost since like the third week of the season. So, I mean, that's when I really want back. Cause I mean, sophomore year was, we weren't even close. Like that entire game, I was like, Jesus, like, we were really, really trying to scrape up here. But that North Carolina game, I really felt like we had, and like out-prepped them, outplayed them. Just, it's how the ball falls sometimes. And then my fourth year, like that, I mean, we weren't going to lose again. Like, we just worked so hard, did everything extra, like really made sure everyone was bought in that year. And we kind of dominated through like the entire tournament. So.
Yeah, you guys crushed it. Yeah, we talked to Matt Dunn a couple weeks ago about kind of losing those games and how excited he was for you guys to kind of overcome that and win even after graduating. So that like the family atmosphere seems really strong, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just speak on that a little bit. Everyone always like thinks that it's Maryland guys like love each other and hate everyone else. That's not the case. We just happen to be super close, and I mean. There's a lot of us playing pro lacrosse, so obviously it's a natural just kind of link there. So we stick together in almost everything we do. Matt actually lives like 3 blocks away.
Oh, really? That's awesome. So you mentioned kind of so many of you guys are playing at the next level. Let's talk about you making the jump and transition to the MLL. What was kind of the biggest adjustments you had to make once you hit the field with the Bayhawks?
Man, it's a man's game there. I mean, I think that's kind of the biggest adjustment. Like I was playing in college, like real good college player. Then I'm getting up there, and it's like, I've always been a footwork guy, not necessarily like a meat stick. So then all of a sudden, I'm like running with guys, but guys are like shooting through me pretty much. And that was a big adjustment. I was like, man, I need to get a little bit bigger. I need to get a little bit stronger. Speed, I was fine off the ground. I was fine, but just size wise, I mean, these guys are like 30 years old. So It took me about, I played well my first year in making that transition, but my second year was really when I started picking it up and understanding. And it's just a different ballgame, man. It's like I would say in college, you're a little bit more like, it's a little bit more like a cardio game. Just, like running up and down, like kids aren't leaning through you, taking like kind of crazy shots. It's more so trying to beat you with ball movement and speed. I would say pro lacrosse is more like an individual thing and people like really like going at you hard. So, I mean, it's less of a cardio battle, more like a strength, like, just being an athlete. So I definitely had to change, like, my body a little bit to be really good in pro lacrosse.
No, that makes sense. And you mentioned the speed that you possess. I got a little bit of that firsthand. I actually went to a Bayhawks game, I think your rookie year, on like a Friday. And then I played in that triple edge league for a little bit. I'm now in Jersey, but I was in Virginia at the time. And
I
played against you guys, the Hawaiian shirts, I think the Hussah dudes or whatever. Yeah. You're just running circles around everybody. And you weren't even really trying that hard too. You were just a clearing machine. But I thought that was ironic that I'm like, here I am watching, a guy playing the pros and then I'm having to face him in a rec league. But,
man, like this is like something that people ask me all the time. And like, you've actually been the first dude that it's ever really known about me playing in men's league down there. For me, like I've always done that. Like even back, like when I was in college, just coming back and playing, because there's nothing, everyone thinks you're super good in this like stud athlete in college. But there's nothing will humble you like your friends from growing up.
Yeah.
So, like, I would go back and get, like, chopped to shreds. And I mean, I felt like, being home was nice. Talking to my old buddies was nice. But, like, that's something that I felt like really helped me on a personal level. Like, like, keeps your ego in check, right? Like, you go back there and those kids know stuff about you that no one else knows. And they're not afraid to exploit it. So that was part of, like, that league for me.
No, that's funny, but I don't think you got shredded too much when we were playing against us. But I think we always gave you guys a good game. You guys won the league quite a few times, and we were never like that competitive. But yeah, it was always a good time playing triple edge. I kind of miss it.
Class.
But going off of that too, let's talk about you get a rookie season under your belt, and then 2018 you had a good year as well, and then let's talk about 2019. You guys finally reached the pinnacle of your pro career, winning a MLL championship over the Outlaws. Talk to me about getting that first pro championship under your belt.
Man, I mean, it was special. Pro lacrosse it's very different, right? It's not like the NFL or like the NHL. We're kind of in weekends, and it's a lot of like personal study and making sure that you're on a personal level in shape. You don't have a strength coach, so really, I mean, I think it takes so much discipline. I mean, that's kind of step one. And I really felt like we prepared better than every other team that we played. I mean, Coach Burdick, our defensive coordinator, is top notch. Like, I think he's one of the best guys in the entire country, like really drawing stuff up, knowing what's going on. And then obviously playing with Coach Cottle was special for me, just being, a Maryland guy and playing with guys like, Brian Phipps, Vern Hart. I thought like Andrew Q was awesome. Warren was awesome. Like our rookies that year were amazing. And kind of the underlying story there that a lot of people don't know is that Jesse Bernhardt's dad passed away a few months prior to that. So, in my experience winning like any type of championship, there's always been some kind of outside factor like that that's pushed the team, over the hump. Like, I believe North Carolina's head coach, like, child passed away or something like that.
Yeah.
For us, Coach Tillman's mom passed away. Like, it seems like there's always some kind of X factor there that kind of pushes the team through.
No, that's awesome. And I know I always love that story because not only did Jesse win with the MLL, but Jake won also in the PLL. And I just thought that was, something there at work I think was amazing. And then let's talk about this season a little bit too. So you and three of your fellow African-American players in the MLL decided to stand in the center of midfield, kind of draw attention to the racial injustices going on in our country. Talk to us about, the conversations leading up to that season and what you guys kind of how you kind of came together to decide, like, this is what we want to do. This is the way we're going to do it. And, why it was important for you guys to do that.
Yeah. So I spoke with like all the guys and, kind of brought them all in the same room and kind of hear everyone's, side of everything and just knowing what the national context is and wanted to make sure that all of us were on the same page and no one was kind of isolated and doing like their own thing. So we spoke and, that first night it was really more so just about stories. I mean, I had a really good experience at the University of Maryland and, realize that our sport has such like a culture issue until speaking with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like I had an idea, like it wasn't great, but you know, again, man, I'm from the South. I played hockey and I swam but to me, I just didn't even really pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of heard their stories. And I was like, okay, like this is a problem. Let's, you know, try to, you know, bring some light to the overall issue. So from that point, we discussed how, you know, we were going to protest or, you know, stand or like do whatever. And it turned out to, I mean, obviously, you know, we didn't want to take a knee, like we're sitting at the Naval Academy. So it, you know, after, you know, a few hours, we talked and we decided it would be good to just stand at the 50-yard line, just us being at the face-off dot and standing.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up getting like a lot of backlash from both sides about that because, I mean, you know, like you get the classic people that say, well, don't bring politics into sports. Mm-hmm. And then you get the other side of it saying, well, you guys aren't doing enough. Well, you guys should be kneeling. So, I mean, it was definitely our choice, like something that spurred up the conversation. And really, that's all I was looking for on a personal note, is to start the overall conversation.
Mm-hmm. No, and you guys certainly did. And talk a little bit, too, about how you think we can kind of progress and make the sport more inclusive. You know, what are some of these conversations that you can share that, you know, kind of drew attention to the overall issue?
Yeah. I mean, I'll speak on kind of how I think the sport can change just in general. I mean, one, I mean, it's got to be cheaper, right? Like I've talked with a lot of like CEOs and a lot of people like that. I mean, you even look at sports like even youth soccer, like sports in general these days are so expensive that, I mean, and you know, we were talking about it as being the sport needs to be as inclusive as possible. And a lot of that doesn't have anything to do with race, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that has to do with just the economics of where all these people are coming from. Like our sport has been the worst as far as only taking like the upper like middle class kids.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was always step one, right? Like once people can afford to play, then it's a lot easier to get people to start playing like the sport, right? It's just like hockey. Like you can't expect someone who doesn't come from a lot to buy skates, shin guards, pants, whatever, helmet, 3 sticks. Like that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of step one. And then on the second factor is, in my experience, coaching in PG County, DC, Baltimore City, like anytime that a kid's been bought in and, you know, doing really well, there's always been some kind of racial incident that went unaddressed. And the kid was like, why would I deal with this when I'm also playing football and I don't have to deal with the issue?
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when I feel like I've lost a lot of kids. So I was speaking with a few different people, and, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set up, you know, something like some sort of graph or chart that says, okay, when a racial action that is X happens, the consequence needs to be Y and Z. Because, I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't blame coaches. I don't blame, like, tournament owners. No one really knows how to handle this, and there's no standard for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, now that, you know, you give them a standard, now, you know, like, you can hold people to the fire a little bit and say, okay, like, this happened and you didn't follow protocol.
Yeah.
So, like, kind of our next steps, I think. And I mean, I think that would just make the sport so much more inclusive in general.
No, I think that's good. I mean, you have U.S. Lacrosse has done a lot of great things. Like, that'd be a good thing for that. You know, again, I'm not going to put it on U.S. Lacrosse to implement, but, like, that's we have the governing body in place to kind of make, you know, kind of make that protocol up. So if a race incident does happen, you know, this is what happens. And I think that's good to kind of standardize it because, you know, it is, you know, you do run into a bunch of different issues, but, like, we got to stomp it out completely. Like, it can't go on anymore, like you said, because then you just turn people away from the sport that, you know, could be pros like yourself eventually playing. And if you shut them out when they're, you know, young, it's, you know, that's not going to grow the sport.
Yeah. I mean, like, for sure. That's always kind of been my stance on it. And you know, it's like not even like it's going to stop it really. Like, I think just in general, though, it's the kid is going to look at the whole incident and say, well, it was addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, I can think about, you know, for me growing up, I mean, to me, like, swimming was the worst. Like,
mm-hmm.
you know, being, you know, like someone of color and trying to swim, I thought was like one of the hardest things. But, like, that's what would always happen, right? Like, someone would say something, or, you know, someone would do something, and I'd bring it up, and, like, nothing would happen. I mean, you know, coach would be, all right, well, you know, I'm going to talk to their coach. Then it turns into this big he said, she said thing, and it just never goes anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think the talk needs to just change to action, right? And I think you're someone who takes action, right? You know, you won the 2020 Dave Huntley Man of the Year award this year. Talk about kind of receiving that honor and what that meant for you, being so involved with the community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to start by, you know, like I didn't know Coach Huntley like on a personal level, but when I first got drafted, there were guys like Mike Evans, like on my team, like a lot of older guys that really were close with him.
Mm-hmm.
And like they always talked about like how awesome he was and how much of a humble guy he was and like really what he did to push the sport forward. So kind of having that base of it, I mean, like I thought it was extremely special. I mean, just, you know, taking the time to, you know, talk with everyone and really, I took it as kind of us for the MLL 4, the 4 like players of color. Like I felt like that was for all of us, right? Like all of us had a lot of really uncomfortable conversations, gotten a lot of pretty heated arguments, like, and it was something that it was, you know, it was like we were isolated kind of from the entire group. Like it was something that we were standing for that really no one else 100%, you know, like understood. Mm-hmm. Not that people weren't trying to understand it and, you know, weren't listening, but it was something that any way that you chop it up, you're definitely on an island with that. Mm-hmm. So I think all of us, like, you know, stood up and said something, and we all have like a different style. But I mean, I think that we balance you know, each person out really well, and it was something that really pushed everything forward. So I take the Dave Huntley, you know, that award as being us 4s that all of us got.
No, absolutely. I think you all, you know, deserve that honor just for what you guys did. And, you know, again, it wasn't easy. You said you got pushed back from both sides. So, you know, I commend you guys for, you know, sticking to your guns.
For sure. Now, weird transition, but before we get to our 5 and 5, I wanted to ask you about your indoor experience a little bit, playing with the Wings. I'm from Philly originally, so that was my squad growing up, and excited to see them back. So talk about kind of your experience with indoor in Philly.
I mean, I'm going to take those two questions separately because, like, Philly's a totally different conversation than indoor. But, I mean, like, indoor is great, right? Like, I think that as a professional league in our sport, in lacrosse, you can't really beat the whole setup of indoor. Just the environment being inside, you can really control the sound and control what's going on. And from a production and like entertainment standpoint, it's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And two, like for me personally, you know, being an American, there's not a lot of them who play indoor. Like playing at that level and seeing how fast these guys play, how physical it is. Like there's a little bit of this like learning curve, right? Mm-hmm. You really have to learn the game. I remember when I first started playing, like, you know, like PD would say something that I had no idea what he was saying. Like there's all this like slang and like, I mean, like, I spent no time in Canada. Like I don't know, like I didn't know anything about like what they were talking about anytime they brought up any kind of slang. So it took me like a few months to really just understand like what people were saying, then trying to try to input my skill set just into the game. So I was lucky, you know, like the coaching staff was patient with me, and then I got the opportunity to play, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot now. Now about Philly, there is nothing like being a professional team in Philly. I mean, you can't beat those fans. You can't beat how rowdy it gets, especially indoor games. Like they love the fights, they love the hits, they love like kind of just being a hard-nosed team. And I think that anytime that you have a team rooted in Philly, like that's exactly what the GM or whoever tries to draft. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's definitely, you know, what we have. We have a gritty team, hard-nosed team, maybe not like the overall like best talent on paper, but we work really well as a unit. Mm-hmm. And we play extremely tough because, you know, like Philly fans aren't going to tolerate anything less. So.
No, I love it. I'm sure Adam loves it too, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk Podcast. Today I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Anchor. We've been using Anchor for the Pro Lacrosse Talk Podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast, and once it's published, they send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. They also connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast today, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today I also want to talk to you about our affiliate, Streaker Sports. Streaker Sports features an array of throwback t-shirts and apparel, including t-shirts of defunct major indoor lacrosse league teams such as the Baltimore Thunder, New York Saints, Syracuse Smash, and Boston Blazers. They also provide custom uniforms and shorts that are perfect for your rep team's upcoming lacrosse tournament or season. Better yet, we've teamed up with Streaker Sports to provide you with a special discount. Simply visit streakersports.com and use the code PLT to save 15% on your order today. Let's transition to our 5 and 5. So I'll start off with lacrosse questions. The first one I have for you, do you have any pregame superstitions or routines?
Not really, man. Like I've always been just a prep guy, man. I just, I strap it on and go. Like people always like make fun of me. I don't like tape anything, man. Like the stick and the gear comes in the bag. I take it out the bag and I hop on the field. But
There we go.
Going off of that, what's your current stick setup?
So I use True. I use the old defensive head that they first came out with. I like a lot. I mean, it's a shovel, like good off the ground. I don't play with any whip. Mm-hmm. So usually it's like 4 shooters or just 2 shooters and really no channel. Just something that I can pick it up quick. My stick changed a lot from when I started playing indoor. I started picking up their sticks. They were really different. And, I felt like the ball wasn't sailing on me. I was real accurate with it. Mm-hmm. So I've been using that shaft wise, really just the heaviest, like a true shaft. I mean, it's been changing, like throughout the last few months, but the Hazard was like 400-gram shaft. That was heavy. It was stiff. Cause I had a problem in college just breaking a lot of shafts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then obviously indoor, you're, breaking a ton. Yeah, so that's how shaft goes. And then tape, I tape up like 3/4 all the way up my shaft. So like I don't like my hand to be on the carbon fiber shaft or on the metal shaft. I always like to be on tape. Mm-hmm. So that's always been my thing. Like I used to do the same thing in hockey too. Like I was a big tape guy in hockey. Gotcha.
And then number 3, which of your rival teams in any league do you enjoy playing against the most?
Man, I think you really can't beat Hopkins, I feel like, in college. Like the tradition there, I think, is there. Anytime I ever played them at Hopkins, it was always like a homecoming day, like sold out event. Like that to me, I think, is the best matchup in our sport. Mm-hmm. If you ask me, if I had to take a professional league, I would say maybe indoor, like any game, because it's a battle every game and something crazy is happening every game. I mean, like we had a tough one against Rochester. We ended up beating them by a lot, but it was like a tough game, a lot of fights, a lot of people getting hit. So like that might have turned into something this year.
That was a real fun game to watch. I mean, towards the end, it was like a fight every 2 minutes, I felt like.
Yeah, like that might have turned into something this year, so we'll see.
And then number 4, what has been your favorite venue to play lacrosse at?
Oh, man. I don't think a lot of guys are going to know about this, but playing in Saskatoon for indoor is, I think, the best venue in the sport. I mean, they sell out their stadium to all I know is that there's not an empty seat there, mm-hmm. and the ceiling's really low. So like sound bounces off the ceiling. I mean, I don't know too much about Saskatoon, but it looks like they don't really have anything else to do. Mm-hmm. So the entire city is at those games.
That's awesome.
Now having said that, on a personal level, you can't beat Wells Fargo. Yeah. Either. I don't care how big the stadium is or who's there. That place is always rowdy. That place is always crazy. So Wells Fargo, I think, is like top 2 for sure.
Awesome. And then the final one, who is a teammate that you've leaned on as a mentor kind of during your career?
Yeah, this might also stump people too. I mean, I said it a lot early on in college, but it was always Brian Cooper. Like coming in my freshman year, he was like the main short stick at that time. I was playing offense for a while, then switched over to D kind of in the middle of our season. And he really taught me how to focus on the craft. Like how to understand hey, anything lower than perfect is substandard, right? So anything that you aren't doing perfectly, you need to practice it until you can't mess it up. Mm-hmm. And he taught me how to watch film, taught me how to prep, taught me how to, hydrate, literally taught me everything. So that was my biggest mentor. And then he left after that year. And, if you talk to him now, he'll say the exact same thing. He's like, I taught Isaiah everything, that he knows. And it's a joke. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's not wrong. He definitely laid that foundation that I kind of built off of.
No, that's awesome.
All right, I'll take the off the field question. So you mentioned you ride your Harley all the time. What are some hobbies and activities you like doing when you're not on the field?
I mean, yeah, I'm a motorcycle guy, man. I like, hopping on the bike, so I live in Baltimore. I'll go into West Virginia, like go out on the shore, hit like, you know, like North Carolina and come back. Like I'll really put some miles on that thing. So I like doing that a lot, you know. You know, like another hobby that I got. I mean, I work construction, so like I really like helping out my buddies with their house. So I'll grab some tools and go help out my buddies. Like, you know, like we just installed a wood floor at my buddy's house. He just bought in Sykesville, where like he has a leak in his roof. Like I like stuff like that, you know, hands on, kind of being fast paced a little bit, like anything like that. Nice,
awesome. Number 2, who's an athlete in another sport you really like watching right now?
Man, I mean, I'm a Washington guy, DC guy. Like, I mean, I think Young's gonna be insane.
Yeah.
You know, like local product. Yeah. You know, a DeMatha guy. Like I remember watching him like come up through high school because I was in college at the time.
Yeah.
And man, I think he's gonna be something special. So I'm excited to watch him play.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a Birds fan. So and our left tackle is out right now, so I'm worried about him when we play you guys next week.
It could be a rough game.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't believe the NFL season is upon us too.
I know, right?
Crazy.
Number 3. So favorite spot to vacation?
Oh man, like you know, I'm not a big vacation guy. Like I just kind of run around. Like so I mean. That's hard. I mean, I grew up going to a Martha's Vineyard, and that place is pretty sweet. Now, it's any place I can get to on my motorcycle in like 2 days.
Nice.
So, I mean, if it's wherever, I don't care. Like I'll ride it down to Florida. I'll take it up to like upstate, like New York, like wherever.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Number 4, favorite meal. You prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
Well, I mean, cooking definitely a no-go. Like I can cook, but I don't enjoy cooking. So, man, I mean, I live in Fells Point, Baltimore, so I got a lot of options around here.
Yeah, for sure.
I really don't think you can beat a steak at Tagliata.
Okay.
I think for me, that's kind of the go-to meal.
I'm going to, so I live in Baltimore. Well, I'm in Towson. So,
Yeah.
but we're gonna get some Little Italy at Amici's tonight if you like Italian.
See, that's what I'm saying. And people sleep on the whole like Baltimore food scene.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't think people know about it.
No, for sure. And then my last question for off the field. Everyone's been quarantined for so long. What's a book or kind of show you've been binging right now that over quarantine?
You know, I've been getting back into the Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm trying to think of a show that's not going to get me in trouble or someone's going to start laughing me for it. I mean, like Lucifer, I think is a good show.
Yeah.
Trying to think, man. I'm not a big TV guy, man. I'm not inside a lot. Like even during quarantine, like I was just on my bike all of quarantine. Like it was definitely not staying inside.
Cool stuff.
And then that wraps up our 5 and 5. But final question we like to always end on is, what is some advice you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally?
Put down the video games. I say this all the time. Like, I mean, I think that the overall and people might get mad. I don't really care. Like, the overall product of the game's gotten worse because these kids are not doing anything else. Like, it's either like they're playing or practicing, or they're inside playing video games. Like, there's no one like. I remember growing up, like, going to play basketball with my friends or hopping on the bikes and like, running around, like, and it's fun, but you pick up so many other skills. Like, like kids, I feel like growing up with me were just in better shape from just running around. Like they had different skills. Like you never had to teach someone how to take a better angle because they already knew that from playing youth football or playing like pickup football from the time they were 3. Like to me, that's like the biggest thing. Like just get outside and go do something instead of just sitting around. Like, and my situation was extreme, but I remember my uncle would wake me up at 4 a.m. anytime I was up in New Jersey, and we'd be outside running around for 4 hours doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like for me, it was fun. For me, I was, out playing basketball with my uncle or throwing the football around, and it was super early, but it was, it got me going. And I think that's why you see like cardio now, like for me, it's just kind of just second nature. Like I've always been running around. And it's something that just comes. Kids now don't have that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Yeah, for sure. Well, that wraps up our interview. We really appreciate you coming on, Isaiah. Where can people find you on social media?
So both Instagram and Twitter, it's IDA__26 is my handle.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you hopping on. Again, congrats for winning the Dave Huntley Man of the Year award. And best of luck with the Philadelphia Wings coming up this season and eventually the Chesapeake Bayhawks next season.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Today, I also want to talk to you about our affiliate, Smart Backstop. Smart Backstop is different from traditional backstops in that it actually attaches to your net, preventing any missed shots up to 4 feet high and wide of the net. It can also be easily folded down behind the net for easy storage. Plus, this thing is built to last and is used by some of the top college teams. I'm someone who spent countless hours chasing missed shots in my backyard as a kid, and I wish I had this on my net. It would have saved me a lot of time and money on lost lacrosse balls. The best thing is right now Smart Backstop is giving listeners $20 off their purchase and free shipping. Just use the code PLT at checkout, place your order, and then get practicing.